Thermodynamic geoengineering provides global warming respite for 150 generations and twice the energy of fossil fuels for the next 3,000 years and beyond. It is an opportunity for the rare investor capable of taking the long view on climate change for the sake of the next 150 generations. For the scientists and technicians who want to make a difference, and those simply wanting to be on the right side of history. It is established science that 93% of the heat of global warming is going into the ocean. Less well understood is the fact that this heat will eventually come back to bite us, if not outright do us in. Even less well understood is the fact that the only way to safely remove heat from the ocean is to convert a portion of it to the work required to sustain 10 billion people who will live on the land by 2050. The intermittent renewable energies like wind and solar do absolutely nothing to address 93% of the problem of global warming. The energies like fission, fusion, and geothermal make the problem greater. The period 1998 to 2013 is often referred to as the global warming hiatus because it appeared global warming had plateaued at that time. Climate skeptics claimed the hiatus was evidence global warming wasn't the problem climate scientists had made it out to be. The scientists first countered with the explanation the hiatus was a period of stronger than normal trade winds that piled up heat in the mixed layer of the western extremes of the major ocean basins. When these winds subsided, the heat sloshed back to the east, particularly in the Pacific, which is the repository of the most intense warming. A heat blob emerged first in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of North America in 2013 and peaked in 2014 and 2015. It re-emerged again in 2019 and persists to this day. The years 2015 through 2019 have been the hottest ever recorded, and climatologists estimate there is a 50 to 75% chance 2020 will break the record high set in 2016. Many scientists now claim the hiatus never happened and was due to uneven geographical distributions of weather stations in the polar region and Africa, which skewed the data. The blobs, however, are a more compelling explanation of where the heat actually went. In the 2012 paper World Ocean Heat Content and Thermospheric Sea Level Change 0 to 2,000 meters, 1955 to 2010, a team from the National Oceanographic Data Center estimated the volume warming of the ocean to a depth of 2,000 meters was 0.09 degrees Celsius, and that if this heat was instantly transferred to the lower 10 kilometers of the global atmosphere, it would result in a volume mean warming of this layer by approximately 36 degrees Celsius. They said this won't happen because the Earth's climate system simply doesn't work like that. But the only thing that's stopping such a release is the carbon dioxide blanket that is trapping warming heat in the atmosphere and ocean. With policies like a tax on carbon, we would actually be hastening the demise of humanity unless we come up with an alternative approach to dealing with the heat accumulating in the ocean. The 2012 paper estimated the ocean heat accumulation was 240 zettajoules for the studied 56 years, which equates to 136 terawatts a year, which is 7.5 times as much energy as is consumed every year. Researchers from the International Energy Agency in 2018, however, found that the oceans were accumulating 13 zettajoules of heat at the time, which equates to 384 terawatts, or 21 times the global energy consumption. In which case, instead of the potential release of 36 degrees into the atmosphere, estimated in 2012, we could be, by extension, looking at closer to an atmospheric warming potential of 102 degrees Celsius, which is where thermodynamic geoengineering comes into the picture. First and second laws of thermodynamics constrain the operation of a heat engine. The first law is the application of conservation of energy to the system and shows how energy can be changed from one form to another, but it cannot be created or destroyed. The second law sets limits on the possible efficiency of the machine and determines the direction of energy flow. The oceans are becoming increasingly thermally stratified because warm water floats, And this stratification facilitates the conversion of a portion of the heat of warming in accordance with these laws. Ocean thermal energy conversion, or OTEC, is one of the few non-polluting renewable energy technologies capable of delivering baseload power. It is the one with the greatest potential and can double the output of fossil fuels, while eliminating the environmental cost of doing business associated with fossil fuel burning, which the International Monetary Fund estimated in 2017 at $5.2 trillion annually. It is energy too cheap to meter because it can be produced for less than the environmental cost of burning fossil fuels. The Joint Group of Experts on the Scientific Aspects of Marine Environmental Protection, a body that advises the United Nations on the scientific aspects of marine environmental protection, concluded in 2019, thermodynamic geoengineering to cool surface waters could effectively reduce warming associated with climate change, but implemented at a large scale, such effects could be temporary, regionally heterogeneous, and present the type of termination risks usually associated with solar geoengineering approaches. The justification for this codicil was a 2015 study produced by a team of researchers from Stanford University that has been rebutted by the Natural Energy Laboratory of Hawaii and others. The Stanford study used a model that boosted the background diffusivity of the top 1,000 meters of the ocean surface by a factor of 600, which is physically impossible. There isn't enough power on the planet to produce such an upheaval. Most OTEC researchers have considered an upwelling approach that moves large volumes of water from the depths to cool a condenser that produces the power of the heat engine. This is 40% as effective as thermodynamic geoengineering, 33% more costly, and produces the regional heterogeneous effects the UN warns of. The upwelling proponents assume, owing to the very low thermodynamic efficiency of OTEC cycles, the overall OTEC process does not remove heat from the ocean, which doesn't accord with the laws of thermodynamics. A conversion of ocean heat to work performed on land is by definition an extraction of heat from the ocean, and the only way ocean heat can be safely extracted from the ocean. The Natural Energy Laboratory of Hawaii has demonstrated that the termination risks of OTEC are unfounded, and there is no earthly reason to terminate a process that produces the energy the world needs while cooling the surface, limiting sea level rise, storm surge, wildfires, drought, replaces fossil fuel emissions, sequesters carbon dioxide, and neutralizes ocean acidity. Thermodynamic geoengineering is neither temporary nor heterogeneous. It sequesters global warming heat for 225 years and then recycles it 13 times, allowing the waste heat of the conversion of the heat to work to dissipate to space over the course of 3,000 years. It provides a 150 generational global warming hiatus. It is homogeneous in that it cools the entire surface at the expense of a minuscule warming of the ocean, which ultimately returns to its pre-industrial temperature. Warm water is buoyant, but this buoyancy is overcome by a heat pipe that moves heat through the phase changes of a low boiling point working fluid. The heat capacity of the ocean is 3 orders of magnitude greater than the capacity of the atmosphere. To keep the heat of warming within the tropics and yet cool the surface, the 1.2 degrees of warming that has occurred to date, the ocean would have to be deleted 100,000%. This would take place within only a tenth of the ocean's surface, therefore 10 times the 100,000% dilution is ultimately required. In a 2007 U.S. patent filing, the theoretical physicist Melvin Pruitt of Los Alamos National Laboratory, with the aid of a computer program OTEC exec, determined the efficiency of a heat pipe design like thermodynamic geoengineering is 7.6%. The efficiency of conventional OTEC is only 3%, and with conventional OTEC, the heat of warming never moves deeper than the mixed layer of the ocean, where the diffusion rate is 1 meter a day and therefore the heat resurfaces in a few months, which is why the approach allows the heat of warming to move rapidly to the poles, provides no respite from warming, and gives rise to erroneous notions like the overall OTEC process does not remove heat from the ocean. Hurricanes also cool the ocean surface, but they only move heat into the mixed layer, which is why 3 different hurricanes can occur along the same path during a single hurricane season. The diffusion rate of water from the ocean depths to the bottom of the mixed layer is about 1 centimeter a day, or about 4 meters a year. Heat moved a kilometer down therefore diffuses back to the bottom of the mixed layer in about 225 years, then moves through the mixed layer in about 3 months. So in total, heat sequestered in the ocean is back on the surface in about 225.3 years, where to prevent as much as 102 degrees of warming, it is recycled back to deep water to produce more work. Given a 7.6% efficiency, the conversion of warming heat with thermodynamic geoengineering, it will take 13 cycles of 225.3 years, or about 2,930 years to recycle and convert all of the heat of warming to work, and to safely let the waste heat of those conversions to dissipate to space, neither of which are temporary nor heterogeneous. Elon Musk has pointed out, somebody could say, and in fact people do, the battery packs are really expensive, and that's just the way they'll always be, because that's the way they've been in the past. But you just have to think of clever ways to make materials and combine them into the shapes that are much, much cheaper than anyone realizes, he says. A lot more energy is packed into a cubic meter of the tropical ocean than reaches its surface. The top 2.5 meters of the ocean hold as much heat as the entire atmosphere above it. To stabilize the atmosphere, we must move surface ocean heat into deeper water and convert a portion of that heat to the energy 10 billion people will need by 2050. For example, it takes 100,000 square miles of solar panels to produce 18 terawatts of energy, whereas it takes only 10,500 square miles of the ocean's surface to produce 29 terawatts with thermodynamic geoengineering, which is cheaper than solar power, requires no storage, and harvests energy from no one's backyard, from a minimal surface area. 80% from OTEC and 20% from the waves, wind, and solar energy that flows over and below the platforms. Ocean heat conversion to work is the social challenge and economic opportunity of the century.